Tonight, a local school board member will not face disciplinary action following her self-admitted trip to D.C. for the pro-Trump rally. Parents called for her resignation or removal. 11 Alive's Hope Ford has tonight's story of staying on the job.
About 25 people protest outside the Coweta County School Board meeting, demanding Linda Menk be removed from her position. It's the second meeting in 2 months where citizens called for the board to take action against Menk, who attended and posted about the pro-Trump rally, as well as debunked election fraud claims.
To have a leader, whether it be a school board leader or a president of the United States, question that democratic process baselessly really makes me angry.
During the meeting, Superintendent Evan Horton revealed he received more than 200 emails accusing him of orchestrating and supporting the protest against Menk.
I want to be clear that I have not orchestrated an attack on any member of this board, as these emails suggest.
Horton adds the board cannot remove an elected member.
There is no procedure or provision in Georgia law which would allow a Board of Education to remove an individual elected by the voters from the member's position for cause.
School board member Andrew Copeland asked for clarification on the censure process, which the board's attorney says would simply be a symbolic gesture. Menk didn't speak at the meeting, but previously told us she never participated in the Capitol riot. In a statement writing, the violence was unwarranted. When asked if she believed the election was stolen from former President Donald Trump, she wrote, "There's no way to respond until a truly nonpartisan investigation is performed on all ballots." Protesters say they'll return to the school board for every meeting
until she resigns. We will continue to disrupt business as usual.
The superintendent added that an attorney advised him the only legal recourse is a recall. That would put the process on the citizens of the county, as the board cannot intervene to remove a member.